Local 22 News starts now with your forecast first.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. Clouds are on the increase right now. Those will continue to thicken up everywhere as we go through the nighttime hours. So temperatures pretty much steady overnight, if not even climbing a little bit. Teens and even some low 20s as we get towards tomorrow morning with mostly cloudy skies. We'll also have a couple of snow showers and squalls coming through during the morning commute. Those then move out during the afternoon. A full timeline on those squalls and how they impact the morning drive right now on Local 22 News.
Outlining his top priorities, Governor Peter Shumlin talks budget. Plus, Republican reaction to the governor's fiscal plans. And helping people heal, how horsepower is changing lives.
From WVNY, this is Local 22 News at 6 in high definition.
And good evening, I'm Joe Smith. Lauren Maloney is live at the State House tonight after Governor Peter Shumlin's budget address. That's where we begin tonight. Lauren, good evening to you.
Joe, good evening. This was a budget address that was 1 hour, 18 minutes long this afternoon, longer than I think what some people did expect. Let's take a look at the overview. The big price tag on this one, $1.47 billion. Now, it would have left a budget gap of $94 million. That's, of course, if this is untouched, but lawmakers have a lot to focus on in the upcoming session. They are willing to do that. Let's take a look at the particulars exactly that is included in Governor Peter Shumlin's budget. $100 million for bridge and road work, $17.4 million to complete the Waterbury State Office complex, and $3 million for school district consolidation. I am joined today by State House reporter Steph Machado. Steph, we know that there are a lot of things that we have to fill this budget gap. The governor laid out a lot of priorities today, so let's hear some of them.
Right, so like you said, a pretty big budget gap that he needed to fill, and he did so with some revenues and with some cuts. One of those cuts, for example, is a net reduction of 11 state employee positions. Now, in addition, he laid out his policy for his third term. It includes health reform, which does have a new tax attached to it, and education reform. Two issues he says are a major problem right now in Vermont. It was a much calmer House chamber without protesters, to which Governor Peter Shumlin laid out his plans to spend your tax dollars next year. The proposal to fill a big budget gap gets rid of a state and local tax deduction that 30% of Vermonters currently take advantage of. It cuts $22 million to non-human services departments and $22 million to the Agency of Human Services.
My budget does not cut one dime from child protection services. In fact, it supports the increased staffing and other progress that we've made in response to the tragedies of last year.
Shumlin also laid out major health care reform policy.
Many of you share my disappointment that we will not achieve at this time the grand vision of Green Mountain Care.
Single-payer plans put aside, Shumlin is still focusing on access and affordability. He wants to fix the problem that comes from Medicaid not paying the full cost of procedures, shifting the burden onto employers and individuals' premiums. The plan is to levy a 0.7% payroll tax on all businesses,
including those that don't currently pay for insurance, but the businesses who pay for them.
It'll raise $41 million plus a hefty federal match to fund the efforts. And then that ever-talked-about issue, rising property taxes and declining student enrollment in public schools.
To those who believe that the answer to our education spending problem is to ask for more money from any of Vermonters' pockets, you've missed the point.
He proposed an enhanced review system where the state will go into districts, adjust funding formulas, and, as a last resort, close schools. And he issued a challenge to critics.
If you don't like my recommendations, propose your own to achieve equal ongoing savings.
And there are a lot of critics already of some of those proposals, and there were a lot of proposals in that long speech, but one of them, the biggest chunk of that $22 million cut to human services, is to LIHEAP, a $6 million cut to LIHEAP. That's the Low-Income Heating Assistance Program.
That's right, Steph, and fellow Democrat House Speaker included in the base budget, he said, instead relying on stretching $18 million in federal money. And House Speaker Shap Smith said in his words, "We may not be able to do what we once did."
We have had to pick up federal reductions over the last couple of years, and it hadn't seemed to me that we had a sustainable funding source for that.
Now, Republicans say they were still in the early stages of digesting the budget. The theme in their news conference immediately following the governor's address today was really holding the line on spending and taxes. One of the key things they mentioned this afternoon was education. They want to balance the budget by reining in spending. One rep said he applauds a stop to new mandates that adds cost to school districts. But he wanted to hear more and says right now he didn't.
However, I was very disappointed that it seemed like the governor's main proposal for education was we're going to study it some more. And I really don't think we need to study it anymore. I think folks out there want some action and they want it now.
So education and healthcare are some of the biggest issues that Shumlin tackled today, big issues that he wants reforms in. Now, coming up at 7, we're going to dive a little bit more into the healthcare issue because, as you heard, there is a proposed tax on employers. But we want to let everyone know that these aren't definite. None of these things are definite. The legislature is going to take 4 months to vet these ideas, take testimony, and they'll have to come up with their own budget and vote on it as well.
We know what happened last week during the inaugural address when it came to health care. Well, today I did see some people leave the House chambers with T-shirts on, bright red T-shirts, put people first, remarking on health care. And I was right outside the doors here. They were very calm. There was absolutely
no protests
today, and they were just here to listen to the governor's budget address, policy address. And Steph, we should mention there was a big Vermont State Police presence here all afternoon.
Pretty much as many people as were here last week, but they had nothing that they needed to contain at all.
Much quieter, we could say, this Thursday than last. Joe, back to you.
Lauren and Steph, thanks so much. Now, before the governor's address, faith leaders gave their own message at the State House. Various groups asked lawmakers to pass a universal and affordable health care system. Last week, 29 demonstrators were cited for trespassing when they wouldn't leave the chamber of the Vermont House following the governor's inaugural address. They were protesting the state's decision not to move forward with single payer. Rabbi Joshua Chasin from the Yohavi Zedek Synagogue in Burlington says access to health care is about mutual respect.
The bottom line is that we are commanded by our faith and ethical traditions to have enough self-respect and mutual respect to accord all of our neighbors the right to accessible, affordable, quality health care.
He continued saying it's the government's responsibility to make sure everyone has access to health care. $1.5 billion could be heading to upstate New York. The funds will help to kickstart the economy. Governor Andrew Cuomo was happy to make the announcement today. The money will be distributed as part of a competition among the state's upstate regions, including the North Country. Cuomo says the government has been too downstate focused, causing the upstate economy to fall into a downward spiral.
Economy changes, transforms, moves overseas, moves to different parts of the country with a better tax structure, and the tide goes out and upstate New York is now on the rocks.
Cuomo says the first step to helping the economy is reducing the tax burden, making the area more appealing for businesses and for people. A Burlington church that recently underwent tens of thousands of dollars in renovations has been nearly destroyed by fire. The Burlington Fire Department and multiple other crews responded to 76 Elmwood Avenue between noon and 1 this afternoon. This is what the Methodist Church looked like when our crews arrived at 1:30 as firefighters continued to battle the flames. No one was hurt and no one was inside the church when it caught fire. The cause is still under investigation.
There was a lot of visible fire from the front of the building to the point where the crews tried to make an initial attack on the fire, but were forced out by the smoke and the heat.
The pastor and his family live right next door to the church. Though their house was not affected, the Red Cross has offered them a place to stay. Coming up at 7, we'll hear from Pastor David Feltz and his wife as they begin to pick up the pieces. A unique type of therapy coming up. Local horses aid healing for more than a decade. And a major donation, how one local learning center plans to use the funds.
Local news that matters. on Local 22 News. You're watching Local 22 News at 6. Local news that matters to Northern New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire.
In Your Community Matters tonight, horses have healing powers. That's what dozens of trainers and riders believe at a farm in Marshfield, Vermont. Local 22 Stacy DeSilva is here now with how therapeutic riding has changed lives. Stacy?
Joe, people living with autism, brain injuries, depression, PTSD, or even low self-esteem benefit from the Rhythm of the Rain program at Marshfield's Water Tower Farm. The therapeutic riding and hippotherapy program here at Rhythm of the Rain has been around for over 10 years, but recently it added adaptive carriage driving to its offerings. This makes Rhythm of the Rain the only PATH-certified driving program in the state. The National Life Group recently gave Rhythm of the Rain a $3,000 grant for its outreach program. Clients work with horses, whether it be riding, driving, or grooming, to improve balance, coordination, core strength, and social skills like trust, patience, and hard work.
Horses just offer healing to so many different people on so many different levels, and it doesn't matter their age or their disability or their needs. It's just incredible to see. When we see them succeed, it just makes us feel wonderful.
Right now, 36 people take lessons at Rhythm of the Rain, most during the warmer months. So you're urged to head to Water Town Farm in Marshfield if you think you might be interested. At 7, I'll introduce you to the people whose lives have been changed by these horses, including a Vietnam vet who attempted suicide. He says this program saved his life. Joe?
Great program. Thank you, Stacy. A Learning Center for Children has received a more than generous donation so they can continue providing their services to families in need. The Stern Center in Williston got a $2 million gift, their largest donation ever. It's being used to reduce fees for families that make less than $125,000 a year. It also grants awards to schools and educators to support learning. We spoke to a mom who says the Stern Center has given her son everything he needs to succeed.
It's for anyone who wants to learn not only reading but math or have any kind of academic help.
There's been a lot of different approaches on how to read and on how to learn to read, and now I've kind of found the right one to use. It's been way easier.
Aaron Ryan says this $2 million donation has been able to decrease their tuition by 10%. Is your high school a basketball powerhouse? Coming up, a national contest to find the best program in the country.
And after another fairly nice day today with seasonable temperatures in many cases, we'll see temps drop big time tomorrow afternoon. But first, snow squalls in the morning. Full timeline on when we see those up next in your full forecast.
Local news that matters on Local 22 News.